So joining us tonight, we have, I don't know what order. Let's start with the writer and director and star, Mr. Lawrence M. Levine. And also we are joined by producer and star, Sophia Takal. And in the role of Damien, we have Jason Ritter. And in the role of Anthony, we have Kevin Corrigan. So the movie's a really fun throwback, as the trailer lets us know, to sort of the old screwball classics, The Thin Man, and more recent varieties like Manhattan Murder Mystery. And one thing that you can gather about all of those movies is that they're all set in New York, which is a place, as we see in this movie, where you don't really know what could be happening in the apartment immediately below where you live or next door or whatnot. And what, maybe beyond that, do you think is the reason that all of these fun screwball murder mysteries tend to take place in Manhattan? Or New York, I should say.
I think they're very interrelational. So in New York, you have a lot of contact with other people all the time, and people are always sort of bumping up against one another, and it creates a creates a kind of aggressive dynamic, which is really, really funny. If you look at the if you look at comedians or like the history of funny people, it's always people who have experienced a lot of difficulty, or like immigrant communities in America tend to create like their own brand of humor, Jewish humor, African American humor. I think it has to do with an urban setting, just people feeling stressed out, feeling cooped up, bumping up against each other. It has like a good tension.
Larry and Sophia play a couple who are engaged in the movie, but in real life, as you may or may not know, they are indeed married. And for our actors here, for Jason and Kevin, you may have learned when you came on this set that they have a very particular energy about them. They create this sort of vortex of personality. And I'm wondering for actors if that makes it more accommodating or as difficult to pierce, or as given the nature of your characters, if it might be good to sort of be on the outside of this bubble of personality.
You're closest.
That situation can be a real nightmare. Not even with couples, but just with, I guess especially with couples. You can have all of a sudden the job titles kind of get fuzzy and people are taking over for the other person, and now two people are running the ship and manipulating each other, and it can get real dicey. But these guys were really amazing. They were so professional. A lot of times couples can take the shorthand that they use in private with each other and just use it in a professional situation and snap at each other and manipulate each other and do all that fun stuff. But this was amazing. They both had a clear idea of the movie that they were making, and they both were working at different angles to make it happen, and it was really a lot of fun. They're two great people. So.
That's a good answer. I always feel like I'm on the Family Feud during these things. The panel style conversation. Someone gives a great answer, and you just have to say, that's a good answer. Good answer.
You agree they're great people? You don't have a different take on that?
Yes, but I already knew them. I kind of had a sense of their aura as a couple, and it was, I being in a long-term relationship of my own, I completely understand the vibe, and I think they're really good at being married. Not only that, but being fellow filmmakers and working on the same film. I've been through that with my spouse, and we're not the best example of how to get along with each other under professional circumstances. And you guys have, I guess, just loved to. I don't know, but I'll tell you this thing about this movie, about the heightened reality of the situations they find themselves in. The sort of broadness of it. But I think it's a well-modulated film where there's sort of realistic performances within the confines of this sort of genre framework, and I find that at the end of it, at the end of all these situations where, Larry's character just doesn't want to acknowledge this, this setup. It's like let's just forget about it, and the way Sophia. I'm sorry, I'm not referring to you by your characters' names, but she says, no, we have to get to the bottom of this. And by the end of it, there's this a great moment of truth between them where they, I guess, are happy that they went to the trouble that they went to. And there's something very truthful about it, even though the circumstances and the style of the movie is very Woody Allen-ish or whatever, very broad. It actually is an excellent path towards a very sincere message at the end about being married. I don't know how many people here are married, or I imagine there's a few. I mean, is that not the way it really is, that fight they get into?
I don't know if people here have seen the film, but...
Okay. But, I mean, just the trailer
But-
gives you some idea of...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I
all
mean,
I'm
Sophia,
saying.
do you feel like if you can make a movie with your partner that you can do anything? Is that the ultimate test for a marriage?
I think so.
Yeah.
I feel
What about having a kid?
maybe having a kid, because that lasts forever and a movie only
Movies
lasts
last forever.
Well, like the time
Movies
that
last longer than kids.
It's true. Some of them.
the
I mean, people. I'm not talking about dead.
yeah.
I was talking about movies that got deleted off hard drives and
Oh,
forgotten,
okay, that's true. Those last shorter. That's true.
Well, maybe we should throw to a clip so we can see this dynamic that we're
Yeah,
all talking about.
totally.
Any of the clips that we have? So that's your apartment building, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We shot...
That's our entryway.
Yeah, I would
our
say we
neighbor-
shot 75% of the movie in or around our apartment building.
Yeah. So for your cast, who have done all sorts of movies, large and small, is there a different mentality that you take into something that's a little bit more bespoke, to borrow one of the words from the script, that doesn't have the usual flourishes and whatnot, or is it really just like a different ice rink, the same game?
I mean, I think for me, because for the most part, I do small things. This movie actually had a lot of flourishes for me that I wasn't used to. A lot of cool, fun props, and those masks, and I mean, in terms of we all were sort of sharing the same space, but it was small spaces, and sharing spaces are only unpleasant if there's an unpleasant person. And everyone who worked on the movie, every member of the crew, and it was just, I think you guys handpicked really great people. And a lot of times on small movies, no one's there who doesn't want to be there. It's not like anybody's been drawn by some huge paycheck and they're like, I'm just doing this to pay my rent or whatever. They're there because they believe in it and they want to be there. And so it creates a really nice dynamic, and everyone is working hard. Everyone, their reason for being there is pure, and their interest in the project is important to them. It's not about any individual. Everyone wants the movie to be the best. So it was great. It was small, but yeah, you were small with friends. So
Yeah, Sophia's philosophy. Sophia is a great producer, which maybe a lot of people don't know, or they're know her as an actress. But her philosophies for production were really important, and she really wanted to have people that we could trust and people that we kind of knew, because every single person on the set, down to the grips, are influencing the movie in ways that aren't apparent to the audience. You know, like if you have a grip who's showing up late a lot, has a bad attitude, that kind of energy can spread to other people on the crew or even to people in the cast. So, you know, it's true that we paid close attention to who we were hiring, and you know, it was a bigger crew than we've worked with before. I think it was around 25 people, but it's not so many people that you can't really make sure that you're hiring someone you like and know, and that you like. I knew everybody's name. I knew everybody very well by the end of the shoot. On a big movie, that wouldn't necessarily be the case.
One of the many, many things that I find really impressive about this movie is the finesse with which you juggle two very different genres and milieus and sort of tones. It's part murder mystery and it's genuinely suspenseful, but perhaps even more than that, it's a comedy about a couple who are sort of reconciling with their differences and whatnot. How did you juggle those things so that they complemented one another? Was it something that you found sort of in the edit, or was it something that you had to be really careful about on the day?
It was very hard, and that was like the single biggest challenge in the edit, because I was feeling it out as I went along. We didn't have any time to reshoot, and if I had time to reshoot, I might have reshot things so that the two poles of the movie were more seamlessly blended. But because I didn't have that luxury, I had to use music and editing and really, really work it in post. So that was a big challenge, because it's about real people who get sucked up into this pulpy murder mystery. And I wanted the transition to be very fluid, and you know, you have certain limitations. So, as I said, music was a really big part of that, actually.
Well, talking about the music, you guys who haven't seen the movie may not know, although you may have heard a little bit of it in the trailer, but there's a really great and unexpected reggae score. And it's very menacing in its own way, but also sort of jaunty. Can you talk about how you arrived at the decision to use that kind of music? And
Yeah, it's just that I really like dub reggae. It's one of my favorite kinds of music. And I just happened to be listening to it while we were going into, the DP came about a month before the shoot, because I knew that I was going to be acting in the movie, and I wanted us to both be very prepared. I wanted to have the whole movie shot listed, and in some cases storyboarded for certain scenes. So he came a month in advance, and while we were prepping, I just happened to be listening to a lot of dub reggae, and it's upbeat and it's fun because it's reggae, but there's also something sinister and menacing about it. So I thought it would be a good fit for the movie, because I wanted the movie to be fun and funky and a little bit eccentric and unique, but also I wanted it to work as a thriller, and it does have that kind of menace in it. So I was listening to it a lot when we were doing pre-production, and like I played it for Sophia and the DP, and like they thought, oh yeah, this could work, this could be cool. And when I brought it to the composer after the movie was finished, I said to him, you know, I was really thinking we could do some dub reggae meets Henry Mancini. I was thinking of the soundtrack for the Pink Panther, and he was like, cool. And I was like, really? You think you can do that? And he was like, yeah, totally. Like, it was the easiest thing in the world. To me, it seemed very weird to mix those, but he came up with a pretty good hybrid, I think. I really liked what he did. He was pretty brilliant. I feel like I got lucky with almost all of the collaborators. Really, like, I lucked out, and they brought a lot to it and made me look a lot better than I would have otherwise.
Sophia, I was reading somewhere where your husband said that to make these characters, he tends to find the worst elements in himself and maybe the worst elements that you find in yourself and amplify them into these three-dimensional beings. Do you see that on screen? Do you see a lot of the worst of each other?
I definitely see the worst of Larry. I guess some people maybe think my character is annoying, but I don't think I seem that bad in the movie. But I do think that what he like latched onto and sort of the character that he drew that I played is based on the parts of me that he maybe finds a little more annoying or hard to deal with, I can get very enthusiastic and excited about things, but in a way that maybe is really intense.
But see, enthusiasm is generally a good thing. I think one of the themes in the movie I find is that the things that we first love about other people can be the very things that we end up resenting in them. You were going to say something. You want to?
Yeah. I was actually just nodding in agreement. Like, I wouldn't say. I think the worst saying that they're drawn from the worst aspects of us isn't accurate. I think I'm kind of misspoke. It's the aspects of each other that most trouble one another. So, like,
like if when Larry is a grouch or a tight ass, that's troubling to me.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when I'm want to spend $1 million invisible dollars that we don't have on an abandoned resort and move away and abandon our life, and I just in general have an itch to never be satisfied with anything, that's annoying to Larry or troubling to him.
Right. And since I wrote it right before the year while we were planning our marriage, these things came under a microscope, I think, for both of us. I know they did for me. When I watched the movie, it strikes me as very clear and very personal. I was struggling with giving myself away to somebody else and their ideas and sharing my life. You know, I wanted to stay safe and cozy in my own protected universe. And then Sophia came into my world and made me so happy, but then I was out of my comfort zone and I kind of wanted to retreat. And I think the movie is kind of about that tension.
I was just talking about some of the movies that you may have used as influences for this. The movie has a technical mastery of it, which is especially, it would be impressive regardless, but especially so for someone who's made movies that have required different disciplines in the past. Not just sort of being inspired by these movies, but did you find yourself that you had to sort of study them and their rhythms and whatnot because it's so important to these genres? Or did you just sort of find it organically?
Well, I studied them over the years in the sense that, I watched I love suspense and comedy. So I've just watched many of these films over the years. I really was a hardcore cinephile for a long time. But when we sat down, me and the DP, to figure out the style that we were going to shoot the movie in, we did look at specific films and break down scenes into their coverage, and what are the shots that make up the chase sequence in The French Connection that everybody loves? Like, can we knock off The French Connection in a way that's funny and amusing on our budget? What would that look like? It's not like we necessarily did everything or could do everything because we had limitations in terms of budget, but we did study. We studied different films for different scenes. So we did reference stuff. Like a lot of the relationship scenes between Sophia and I, or even between Sophia and Alia, or me and Annie. Those scenes we're thinking of them in more of like a Cassavetes naturalistic dogma type style. Whereas the suspense stuff we were drawing on, a lot of 70s suspense films or Hitchcock stuff, So we looked at things. We studied in a casual way, I'd say.
Yeah, all right. Why don't we show one clip and then turn it over to the audience for questions? All right. That was dense. There's a lot going on in there. All right. Q&A. Let's do it.
I have a question for Jason.
Yes.
Would you say you've changed since the movie? Like, you've changed a lot?
I have changed a lot since that movie. We shot it 2 years ago. So yeah, a lot has changed. I've shaved. I cut my hair. But it was a lot of fun, and I mean, one of the things, I don't get to play a character like this a lot, so it gave me a little bit more confidence to stretch my little wings.
I love watching you in this movie.
Thanks, Sophia. I love watching you in this movie.
Thanks.
I do.
Thank you.
Hey, Larry. My name's Tim. You were talking about how you wanted
Kim?
to... Tim.
Oh, Tim.
You were talking about how you wanted to strive for suspense, but at the same time comedy. And were there certain times where you'd rather have one than the other, or was it always a middle ground you were going for throughout the entire film?
No, I had a fundamental vibe of comedy that I wanted. So that was the main thing. That was always more important. But if it could be suspenseful too, one kind of fed the other, because the more heightened the circumstances were, the more in danger the characters are. Like, for some reason, the more funny it was anyway. So they didn't work against each other in the case of this film. They helped each other.
So, I'm looking forward to seeing this film. Where can I see it and when?
Can I say?
Yeah, sure.
It opens tomorrow at IFC Center, and it's playing for a week there. And it's also available on video on demand and on iTunes starting tomorrow.
Excellent, thank you. So, not to cause any conflict at home, you mentioned
Can't
Woody Allen.
wait for this.
No, it's fine. You mentioned Woody Allen-esque. He worked with with Diane Keaton and Mia Farrow in their relationships. Cassavetes worked with Gina Rowlands. Do you see yourselves always working together? Larry, would it be a possibility that if Sophia is available for a film to cast, you may not cast her if she's not
We
right
fight
for the
about
part?
this a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
It's
would
really
you
mostly
maybe not take the
imaginary, because
part?
I don't know if I'll ever be able to make another film again, period, with her or not. So,
It's
What were you
really,
gonna say?
I could give you an honest answer if you want one. It's really hard to make movies, and it's really hard to raise money for movies, and a lot of times you have to cast famous people in the movies to get the money, and so that's a big it was a conversation we had about this movie. We didn't know if we were going to be in it the whole time, and then we decided to, and now we sort of are at this place where we have no money to put into our own movies, and we don't have any friends and family that we can ask for money again. So it's become a conversation that we're having of just like, what do we do now? Do we keep making sacrifices, personal and financial sacrifices, to keep putting ourselves in movies together? Or do we try to cast people where maybe we can convince other people to give us money, strangers to give us money to make the movie? But
Yeah.
I really like working with Larry, and if he wanted to cast me in everything, I'd be so happy. And I would, every time I'm in a movie, I try to be less difficult than the last one.
yeah, I mean, we'd love to work together. It's really fun, but you're not always in control of those things.
Is there anything next planned so far? I know you guys were saying it's a little hard to struggle with doing right now, but do you have anything you have in your head gestating that you want to like really roll with, or is there something like in stone set, or just something setting in your head?
I just directed a movie that Larry wrote and acted in called Always Shine. I shot it last fall in Big Sur, California, and hopefully I'll finish that. Someone's editing it now. And we're writing a lot of scripts and trying to figure out what we need to make the next movie.
Yeah, other stuff.
What are you guys up to?
Promoting Wild Canaries,
Cool.
which everyone should see. It's really good.
Awesome.
And everyone should see your next movies too, because you guys are people to watch. Mark my words.
What's the next movie called? The one you shot in Big Sur?
Always Shine.
Always Shine.
It's a dark psychological thriller about ladies.
And Kevin's in a movie called Results, which was just at Sundance and is excellent, and he is excellent in it. So I will.
Oh, thanks.
It's called Wild Canaries. It's really, really wonderful. There's a big fan. It opens tomorrow at the IFC Center and on iTunes and all sorts of VOD platforms. Really don't miss it, and they can make more of them.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming.